Yo, so I just want to point out this is therapy for us all. Like week in, week out. We look forward to it. Listen,
Fellas,
it's
it's
just
gonna be one of them nights.
it's gonna be. I'm telling you. What's up? What's up? What's up, man? Prototype Dad in the building, man. Another Tuesday night at 9, man. I'm happy to be here. What's up, man? Mo Better. How you doing, buddy?
What's happening? Feeling good, feeling great. What's happening?
Man, just trying to live the dream the best way we can. You know what I mean?
You already know.
So, tonight's topic is about preparing your kid for life after high school, and what that look like, and what's the best options that that parents should be gearing them up to. You know, uh, Even partially, should we be kicking them out? Is it oh when you turn 18, then you got to get out of here. Which actually I think that's like from a survival standpoint anyway. I think that's really like us saying I can't do much better than what I'm doing. You're better off on your own. I need to worry about myself. You know what I'm saying? I think it's a survival mode response that a lot of black parents, go about it, or we install in our kids. You know, what I mean, tonight's show ain't necessarily about that, but just to add that little ad lib in. You know what I'm saying? You got any thoughts on that? On kicking them out? Because I know you're like, nah, you don't gotta leave.
Yeah, so hold on, you know how I do. Look, hey, get off the Wi-Fi. Let me get everybody off the Wi-Fi. But um I never thought of it that way. Um that it's a survival tactic, but I think you're right. And though obviously I haven't got to that point yet. And I don't believe in it. I think because I'm in a different,
State.
situation.
Yeah.
But what I'll say is this: I remember at the time when my daughter was young and was in like daycare. I remember being like, man, I can't wait till she go to school so I can stop paying this daycare fee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, if anything, it's almost like you're holding your breath and you're like, man, I can finally exhale whenever that burden is gone.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. But
because I was like, yeah, because in my mind, I'm like, no, why would you do that? Like, because I've always been a proponent of. I'm like, the biggest problem in our community is that every generation is starting from zero, and I'm like, if nothing else, even if you don't have like this big inheritance to give them, hell, just by giving them a safe place to stay without out here, surviving on their own until they figure it out, that helps.
so. I mean, I think we're kind of going to get into that a little bit because morality is one of the topics, right? And I'll wait for that.
Okay,
so
because I'm curious. I'm curious how that ties in, but okay.
so no, so kind of like the first segment, man. We'll talk about it, man. What's the best way for you for kids to go nowadays, right? So I kind of have it listed as should they come out of high school getting a job? Should they go into a trade school, or is college still the way to go? Mo, what you think about those three options?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it depends on the kid, and it depends on what they're good at and what their aptitude is, right? Because one size doesn't fit all. Like I always say this, like don't just give me a solution off the shelf and expect it to be tailor made for me. Like
Hmm.
that's not right. So like if you have an aptitude for academia, yeah, then maybe college is your thing, and then not just that, do you have a plan as to what you're going to do while you're in college? And then
Right.
not only that is it can like lastly is how are you going to pay for this? Like,
Hmm.
because a lot of people go into academia. I
In
wouldn't even
La
say
La
like
Land.
this,
I
but
mean, but
yeah,
no. I mean, we could go over each one, individually, right? So if you want to
uh-huh.
go over academia first, and we can talk about trade schools and actual job, and at the end, kind of
Yeah,
say
and then
what's
I
better.
think there's a fourth option that needs to be spoken about as well, being the military.
Oh, I ain't even thinking about that. Yeah, let me go ahead and make that bullet point. Because I didn't even think about it. Because I got a lot of thoughts on that, but not as
Yep.
many. Now I wish I would have reached out to somebody that did it.
Yeah.
But
It's all good.
now but yeah, so like let's talk about college and having a plan, right? So I kind of think like at this stage in the game, your kid should convince you on why they should go to college. Opposed like what
I don't hate it.
I'm on my 7 essentials right now.
Uh-huh.
So come up with a what is it, ethos, pathos, and logos
Yeah.
on why they should go to college.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? So opposed to just sending them off at this point, because like I said, a lot of Dave Ramsey came up on my timeline, in doing a little bit of research for these questions. So it's kind of like he threw out this number: 52% of people that go to college graduate.
Wow, I didn't know that. Sheesh.
So that's basically like, how people so scared of getting married.
Yeah, that's like half. So
right.
It's the same. Yeah,
it's the same.
What do I always say? The possibility versus the probability. Wow.
Right. So it's like if only 52% are graduating, right? 100% is leaving with debt. Or there's a very small percentage that's not. You know what I mean? But even still, that's an investment coming out of pocket, XYZ. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, what's your thoughts? I don't want to take too much.
Yeah, so right. So the opposite side of that coin, and I also have some thoughts on Dave Ramsey. And I definitely follow a lot of what he says, but like I said, you can't just give something off the shelf and it to be tailor-made, because I think a lot of it works, but then there's a whole nother bucket to it of being black in America. They're like, you didn't account for this. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
And we could get to that at another point. But when it comes to school and as far as going to college, I think that like they don't necessarily have to cold call me. My kid doesn't have to cold call me and sell me on the proposition of college for them. I'm going to help them come up with whatever that proposition statement is. And I'm going to try to be, objective. And I'm going to say, okay, based on what you're good at, what, kind of socially and all the things combined up to make them who they are, is this a good fit for you? And if not, what would be a better fit? But when it comes to college, that's actually a crazy, I mean, it is what it is. 52% only graduate. However, on the opposite side of that coin, for the people who do graduate, you make $1 million more over your career.
Yeah.
In some cases, it's worth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the 50-50 coin that it might be worth taking, right?
So if you don't, now granted, and I remember I heard this about Divine Nine Greek organizations. They were like, why is it that, these Greeks are so successful? And I want to say the lady was like, she was something really big in politics. I want to say she might have been, I don't know, whatever she was. And they were like, what is it that makes the Divine Nine Greeks so successful in this country? And she was like, it's not necessarily anything that we're particularly coaching them on. It's more about our vetting process. We're only selecting the people who have a high probability of success already, with or without us. And I think that plays a key role in this. So whether it's if they don't have a snowball's chance of hell of graduating, they barely graduated high school, you probably don't have no to send them to college.
But I also think that Divine Nine people they benefit from the peer group. Remember, it's kind of like we talk about this all the time, right? Like for me particularly, there was no college if there was no football. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to be the only one on in my high school team not going to college because everybody else is going. You know what I'm saying? So even if I got to fake it to go, I'm going to college because my teammates that I've been playing with for the last 4 years, they're like, we're all going to college. So I'm not going to be the man left out. Once you get there, I think it adds an extra element of being a part of a Greek life. I think that adds that extra element of it gives you a new guideline of, hey, we graduate and we are one of the benefits of joining.
Yeah, it gives you a new standard. Yeah, it gives you a new standard. Yeah, I agree.
When you're out in the world and you're AKA applying to a job or in a situation where you're applying for a job and that person is also a part of your same frat or your same sorority, you got the leg up. They're going to make sure you get in, and they sell you on that when bringing you in. You know what I'm saying? So I think that plays a huge role in it or I'm not going to be the one out because I'm a part of this group now. This group does this. You understand what I'm saying? It's like you do what your family does. Like if we're bakers, we're generally we're bakers. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. So yeah. So from that standpoint, in my point, it's like a chicken and egg discussion because both are, two things can be correct at the same time. So I think you're right, as being part of that, that herd or whatever is going to push you, the motion is going to push you towards success. However, if they don't think that you are capable of holding up your part of that legacy, they're not going to select you anyway.
They're not going to select you either. Yeah, yeah.
And one of the things that they talk about in Greek life is the letters don't make you. You should make the letters. And it's more the power of your greatness already uniting with other greatness that propels you. Not like, because they're not picking scrubs. Like that's let's be clear. Like they're not just like, he's a project. Let me fix him up. Like that's not what they're doing. So they're already picking from, they're picking the cream of the crop and saying, okay, now we can feed and nurture this already good product. And then obviously it comes out polished and everything else. But they actually saw something in you to begin with. That's why they selected you.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I agree 100%. I think that it's a good, just socially, I think that's a good part of college in general, is kind of your network and kind of the social groups you're a part of and the exposure that you get within it. In my opinion, specifically for Black kids, to kind of find themselves. Yeah, to find themselves outside of where, and I don't want to say that the Black experience as a whole is like impoverished.
You're talking about HBCUs only though, because find yourself.
No.
You're not necessarily finding yourself. I mean, you mess around and go off the charts.
You could, but
yeah, like
I found myself. So so what I did is I did find myself. Obviously, I think it would have been much different at HBCU, but I did find myself because it gave me a level of, I had to be so good at what I did, and I had to be so confident in what I was doing, to where they couldn't knock me off of that I was good at it. You know what I mean? Like, because they would try, like, why? Like, you're not as smart as you think you are. I am. Like, I found myself having to do that a lot versus them nurturing me and being like, you're going to be great. All we do is greatness here at this. You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of my family.
Well, I don't think we got any of that where we went.
And that's my point. So I helped find myself. So I found myself in that. And it helped me come, by the time I got to corporate America, I was already like, nah, I'm not going to let you talk me off of what I'm good at. Whereas, I might not have had that resolve otherwise. Like I feel I was already callous to, I'm just as good as you are. I can compete with you. I've been doing it. You're going to give me what I deserve. I'm not just, I'm not a diversity hire. Like I belong here.
Did we go to that job? When did you get the 84 joint? Was it from the job fair we went to?
Yep, it was at that job fair.
What separated that decision from any? Because there was a lot of companies there, right? So how'd you end up there opposed to the 50 other companies that was at that job fair?
I think the first thing was that exactly that, and this is crazy. I've never told this story. So I remember like the one that was really hot on my tails was, I think it was Enterprise, whoever's the rental car with the green. I can't remember if that's National or Enterprise, but they were really hot on me. And it wasn't even like a real job. Like it was like, they just kind of rolled you through. And actually some people from.
A lot of people. Yeah. A lot of people went through it. Yeah.
Yeah, they took it. But I was like, no, like I'm not just happy for any job. I want the right job. I want the right opportunity. And I still, and shout out to him, man. I remember Bill Dove. That was the guy, the manager who actually recruited me, and who ended up being a boss of mine. He ended up being a direct manager of mine at some point. Is he was okay with me being my authentic self. I didn't have to code switch or, yeah, boss, and like I didn't have to do none of that. I was like, look, this is what I'm good at. This is what I'm passionate about. I'm a fast learner, and I don't know what I don't know. So this is who I am. Is there a fit for me there? And even within, he's like, yeah, I think you'd be a good fit. Even within that, there was like wild turbulence and like hurdles outside of him. It was just kind of the politics of it. Like they were like, wow. And like, so like, for example, generally a person that has a degree, generally they go up through the trainee process at the corporate level. Kind of like the story we told about you at the bank. They kind of felt like, no, that ain't for you. So they sent me to the store. I started out in an actual store, like in the retail store. Most people wouldn't have done that. I remember, and I don't know if I ever told you this story. I was still in school. So the first day I did this job out it's a lumber yard, by the way. I came home and I played football all my life. My legs and everything was hurting so bad. I couldn't
just
get
on
out
your
of the
feet
car.
walking.
Yep.
Yeah,
I couldn't get out of the car. I remember that. Like, and I remember thinking, did I go to college for this?
Yeah.
But because I'd already had those types of hurdles thrown at me, and just the way I'm wired, like the adversity, it made me like, you're not gonna break me. So with that being said, I did the retail training process. I started on that ladder. In 5 months, I was able to bypass that whole entry-level corporate position, and I went directly into being an HR recruiter, working for that same guy, Bill Dove. So just that level of adversity and being able to persevere through that so-called dominant society bias helped me being able to go and, succeed in their world. And I remember that was always one of my fears was if I went to HBCU, would I know how to navigate those waters? I would imagine, yeah, but I just didn't know.
I think they spent a great deal of time preparing you for that.
Yep, I agree. I agree now.
To add to this story, because we went to the same job fair, right? Yep. I came out with nothing out of there. But listen,
okay.
But this is why, though. There were no tech recruiters. None.
Yep.
Out of all those employers, like you got to understand, when I came out, tech wasn't big in our area.
Yeah.
Like I actually had to move to Georgia to even get my second tech interview. In the first tech interview, the first software development interview I had, it was in Uniontown. So it's like I'm thinking like, I just got a new daughter. I'm not trying to live in Uniontown, go back and forth. What is it, like a 2-hour commute? And dude even looked at me. It was like, I don't even know what the offer. Like, look, I want to give you the job, but I think you're going to get a better offer somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even want to put you in this position, like, because all we got for you is $38,000. Right. And I'm like, 38,000.
Like, that's not for this.
Yeah, that's not the numbers I heard. And he was like, look, we're in Uniontown because we can offer 38,000, and people will take it. You understand? And I was just like,
look, so while you was doing that, I did the numbers. That's $18.26 per hour.
But that's not bad. We talking 2006.
To be in tech, that's bad.
We're talking 2006.
So, and the reason I say that is because my first degree was in sport management, and I remember they, like we had a pipeline to go work for the Steelers, and like they greased the skids for you, and the initial offer that they were going to give you was $32,000. I was like, nah, I'm good. Like they're like, but it's the Steelers. Oh, I gotta eat. I was like, the hell with the Steelers.
No, I get it, right, and I'm with you, but it was a matter of, so the going rate was, hey, when you graduate, you'll get at least 42 or something like that. You got to think back in 2006, that's not bad. People kind of bragged about making 40K once upon a time. You know what I'm saying? Like, so for him to,
I don't know.
I
mean, but
we're talking about 06. We're talking about 06.
Bro, I was making 50 grand.
We still talking about 06.
That's what I'm saying. Like my first job out of college, I was making 50 grand. So
no, that wasn't that wasn't what I was.
I mean, tech also wasn't that huge as it is now.
It wasn't. No,
I mean, not readily available. So now tech is all over, and they have different.
They didn't know how valuable it was or what it was really going to be about either. You understand what I'm saying?
That was right after, like a couple years after Facebook hit, right? And then social
Yeah.
media
Yeah.
started the big up. So like tech wasn't really that huge yet.
Right.
Right.
So like I was actually kind of cool with it, but when he was like, "Look, man, you want to go home? You could go back to Pittsburgh and get 50." And I don't know, I can't even compete with it. And I was just like, you got a point. And I ended up getting nothing. That was the only interview I've gotten until 2012 when I moved to Georgia. No, I moved in 2010. I didn't get my actual first engineering job until 2012, which is crazy.
So that's interesting. You never told me that story. And because if you would have asked me at the time, I would have told you to take it.
The dude talked me out of it. Like I'm sitting here talking with the CEO.
I'd have been like, I'm taking it. Like
yeah,
he had to tell me,
but
like,
he was
I'm not
like,
gonna hire you.
He was literally my first interview, like because they recruited at the school. So he was like,
Right.
They was like, hey, we know who you are, we know what you do, blah 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 blah. We're recruiting for you, boom. And then he's like, where you live at? And I was like, I'm from Pittsburgh. He's like, you going back? Like, yeah. He's like, so you gonna commute from Pittsburgh to Uniontown? I was like, I guess. And he's like, look, if you ain't moving down, I don't see you driving 2 hours. You probably gonna get a better offer at home. But we know how the city is, especially back then. You know what I'm saying? They're not believing no black kid.
And that's why I would have been like, hey, take this. Like, if nothing else, because I understood, hey, you need your foot in the door, you need to get the experience. Because remember, ex-wife at the time, or girlfriend at the time, or whatever, she was having that same experience. Like, got a master's degree, and they're like, yeah, we can do 30. I'm like, to teach, they're gonna give you 30? And I was like, man, we gotta go. I was like, this ain't good. This ain't right. And keep in mind, like, I kind of had that same experience. And instead of moving back to Pittsburgh, remember, I had the apartment in Denora.
Yeah. Yeah, that was crazy.
So I went through it before you did. So if you would have came to me, I would have told you, I'd be like, take it. It's a stepping stone, because that first experience and that first entry level corporate job is so hard to get if you don't have.
Right.
Yeah. From what I remember, you didn't necessarily do an internship, because if you don't do an internship and they grease the skids for you to go into your first job, it's hard to get. So I would have told you, go ahead and take it. Even if it was like for 6 months, and it's like, all right, until.
But you got to think, I got what I got. Right, I'm like, I'm fresh out. I got an engineering degree. I'm gonna get something. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm impersonable. Like, you know what I'm saying? I can interview well. Like, I wasn't even getting in the door to talk to people. Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like, that's the only person I talked to for 4 years about a job. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I had other jobs, but then I was like, even working other jobs. I was at one job, and I'm talking to the girl. She's like, "Wait, you got a degree in what?" And I was like, computer engineer. She's like, what are you doing here?
I gotta eat.
I looked at her like, if you don't get up and go somewhere, what's up, Leafer, man?
What up?
Man, we so off topic. We only on our first bullet point, dog.
Look, we can get into it now that Leafer's here. We can be more structured now.
So we were just basically talking about, college, and if it's the right fit. How do you know? We're going to talk about the 4 different parts of it, right? So should your child go get a job, military, trade school, or college? What's the best route? And then you have a whole nother segment of it, but I guess it could kind of fit into the trade
school. Yep.
Would that go in the trade school, Leafer? What you did?
Yep.
Culinary?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that'd be in trade.
So
sure. Now, I mean, they do got 4-year degrees. They got 4-year degrees for culinary now that encompasses the whole business and things like that. But yeah, the route I went was definitely trade. So expensive trade, but it was trade.
Speak about that process and what made you go, because when you said I'm going to culinary art school, and I looked at you like, you ain't going to college. You know what I'm saying? So because it was always about being pushed and going to college.
Yeah. So for me, I think I had for years I had thought that I was going to be a architect, and that's what I was gearing myself up for, to go to school to be an architect. And I think I started moving a little bit. When my mom got jobs at different places, so we started moving a little bit, and then I started experiencing a bunch of different stuff. And I was kind of in this space where it was like, now I'm in all these new spaces. I got to meet all these new people over and over and start new friendships. And my mind wasn't in the same space. And then I think like it might have been my senior year. We moved to a whole new place my senior year, so I had to start all over my senior year of high school. And I was in a pretty dark space. But with that, I end up like taking this easy course because I figured it'd be an easy A. So I took this home ec course, this cooking course, for school, and I was like, "No, I'll just take it to be easy A, and you know what I mean, to get me out of doing some dumb stuff that I don't want to do." And then they ended up having a chef come in from Le Cordon Bleu in Pittsburgh do a cooking demonstration, and dude was like, he'd made, you know, I mean, I had only seen pasta, you know, in the store, like the dried up stuff and everything. He made pasta from scratch. He was doing all kind of crazy stuff, but he was doing it like quick. And you know what I mean? It was like, I was like, dang, that's how you do that. That's how you do that. I was like, I want to do that. And it just kind of changed my perspective about everything.
That moved you from being an architect?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's still like creative arts type of thing, that same thinking space, but it was just like it was like just a different way because it was like, you know, I always kind of associated, you know, because of my family and my grandma and art, the way that we, you know, kind of spend time together is like always circled around food. So I always kind of connected food with like this, you know, with that like this love. So you know, when that came about, I was like, man, that's dope. I would, you know, I would love to do something like that. So, like, after that, I was like, well, you know what? I'll just dip my foot in the water. He's like, well, look, if you're not sure, I got another demonstration out in Akron. If you want to come. And it was like, it just started like, it seemed like stars was aligning because I used to live in Akron. So it was like, I know the lay of the land. I know where this particular space is at. You know, I know I could probably get my mom to take me out there. It's only about an hour away from where we're living at now. So I'm like, I'll go out here and check it out.
I kind of want to, because you come from one of them families where success is like boom, boom, boom. Like, you know what I'm saying? Everybody goes to school. You got lawyers, doctors, bankers, all through your family, right? So you come from one of those families that there was no pressure there to keep up the standard of what the family emblem, you know what I mean? The crest was of success.
I mean, there really isn't. There really wasn't a standard. I mean, there is a standard. So there's a basic standard, right? So, but that standard is like get an education. You know what I mean? Decide what you want to do and work hard towards whatever you're doing. You know what I mean? To build up and be the type of person that you want to be. There wasn't necessarily a standard as far as you need to go to this school or you need to go.
Y'all basically like Nigerians.
Do this.
Y'all got doctors too. Like y'all like Africans, dog. Like come on, man. Like
yeah, but there wasn't that. There really wasn't that conversation. It was more like you're going to do something, or you're going to get out of this house. And so it like that's the kind, like there's a baseline standard where it's like you're graduating high school, you're going to, you know, get either a higher education or you're going to some trade school to, you know, to get to do something. You're doing something with further education to get to somewhere in life. You're not just going to be sitting around here bullcrapping. So there was a base standard, but there wasn't like this ridiculous amount of pressure to do. Well, at least I didn't feel it because I had already felt like I knew what I wanted to do prior to doing that. And then when I switched up and changed my mind, everybody was like, culinary arts.
Exactly.
What?
Exactly.
Like they were all surprised about it. Like
you don't have a color. You're the only one that does that. Everybody else is white collar.
The crazy thing is my brother wanted to do it too, but he just didn't want a copycat off me. So he ended up going into finance. Like my brother is dope in the kitchen. Dope. But you know what I mean? Like we come from that kind of family where it's like, you don't want to be like to feel like you being a copycat off somebody. You want to create your own lane. So he was feeling culinary, but once I was in there, it was like, you know, because he used to bake with my aunt and cook. Like my brother puts it down in the kitchen. So, you know what I mean? I just think that, you know, we just, you know, kind of just created our own lanes, you know, and didn't want to go in the space that everybody else was going. So, you know, we just kind of did that. But yeah, I didn't really feel any pressure as far as what I was going to do. The pressure was more as you going to do something. And, you know, so whatever I did was kind of on me to figure out and create.
So what about the case of, hey, you need to just get a job? You know what I'm saying? Like, how does that play out or how do you recognize like your kid just college ain't for them, a trade school, you don't want to make that investment quite yet. Look, you got to get a job. You know what I'm saying? How does that work? Or are we always pushing for one of the big three, right? And the other one would be the military route to go. You know what I'm saying? So is it only push for those? But what about like, hey, you got to get a job. I don't think military is going to work for you or whatever.
Yeah, I think you gotta know your kid. And the crazy thing is, I was just having this conversation with my nephew and his friend, which I also call my nephew because he's always over here eating my food, so he might as well be family.
I mean,
But yeah, I was just having
that's
this conversation. I was having this conversation with them yesterday, like, yo, you know what I mean? Like, what are y'all gonna do? You know what I mean? Like, you're getting closer to those upper, classes in high school, and you know what I mean, chasing the girls and all that. It's all cool and everything, but I'm like, you don't want to peak in high school. So what are your goals? Like, what do you like to do? Like, what do you see yourself doing? You know what I mean? For 5, 10, 15 years, that might not necessarily seem like work that you can actually dig into and create a path for success. My nephew always says now, oh, I want to go to college. I want to go to college. But every day he tells me how much he hates going to school. And I'm like, well, this is not connecting here. Like, ain't nobody finna pay for you to go to college for you to go up there and flunk out. So I'm like, well, you keep talking about going to college because there's parties. I'm like, no, like we need to figure out what's going on before somebody finna pay for you to go to college. I said, if anything, you should, if you really don't know, get you a job. You know what I mean? Doing something. Find somebody who's willing to mentor you, or you know what I mean, who's willing to give you an apprenticeship. And then if they're, you get you a job where they're willing to pay for your schooling. And then now you already got your experience. All you got to do is get your education to go behind it. But I'm like, you just going to college just to figure stuff out. I'm like, that's cool
if you could afford
if you're paying for it. If you're paying for it, you know what I mean. You're gonna go to school and somebody else is down to try to figure it out. I'm like, I'm not.
If you're
really,
going on my dime, you're going to
that.
CCAC boys.
But
yeah.
And
you could get a associates now almost for free. So you know what I mean? You go out there, you figure it out, get you a job, and then let your job pay for the rest of your 4-year degree.
Right.
So it's that's a hard conversation because after high school, you really gotta grow up. But you don't, because here's the thing, that's high school is really the last time you're going to be around your peer group if you don't go to college straight away. Because getting a job, the person working next to you is going to be 45 years old. And they, you know what I'm saying? Like, especially like that first job. That if you work at a fast food,
that's why I don't even suggest it.
Like that person you're working with, they're gonna be 45, missing teeth. Like you
dreams killed already.
Yeah, dream like, hey, they gonna take their job way too serious, and you gonna be like, yo, I'm only here for a couple dollars, like. But they gonna be serious about their shift. They gonna make sure they clock in on time. They gonna tell you that old head, smoke a cigarette, like, you know what I'm saying, advice, and it's really gonna make you like, man, this can't. It should bring you down. Or I'm like, man, I need to go to college. You know what I'm saying? But then you go work a job, and you're getting older. You know what I'm saying? And about time you actually go to school, everybody's too old. Like you missed your window because now you're the old person on campus. And now you're feeling straight awkward, like, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like you're missing your peer groups, those relationships that you could really develop and push down if you miss out on a college window. Like, so you really got to understand you're sucking that up to really just go straight into a life that you might not be ready to be comfortable with. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
But I feel the opposite, because I feel like because I didn't go to get the 4-year until years after I got the culinary degree, and I feel like it was much easier for me to make it through those college years at that point in my life, because I wasn't really
talking about making it through. You got a purpose now.
But and that's what I'm saying, because I wasn't going in there fresh out of high school, not knowing what I'm doing, and I'm enamored by the parties and stuff. And it's my first time away from home, and now I got some freedom, and you know what I mean. My mom is sending me money, and I'm partying on their dime. Like, it's a whole different experience once you go in, and now you're a little bit older, you're a little bit more mature. Now you can still party, but you're prioritizing, you know what I mean, your education and the relationships. Like, you're trying to build the relationships more. You're thinking more about the internships and the things that you could do outside of the school. You're going in with a more mature head than if you're coming in straight out of high school. Now, I'm not saying everybody has that same maturity curve, because some people come straight out of high school because their family has been pushing this college thing and this agenda their whole lives. But some people aren't getting that, and it's just like, you got to do something. So you go on in there like, and then people quit school and don't even tell their parents, and their parents are still paying tuition.
I want to speak like this because I know y'all. I know we've known each other a long time, so I know we wasn't thinking that about time we hit this age, life was going to be fun. You know what I'm saying? And life after you start making money is so much fun. It's way funner than any time I've ever had in my teenage years.
I've lived a
Or-
life better than I ever dreamed.
Than I've ever dreamed.
Already.
Exactly. So it's
And
kind
my
of like,
aspirations were to be a doctor.
but we didn't know anybody on this side of the fence to be like, look, focus on your
I did.
schoolwork.
I
It's
did.
better. Oh,
but
you
I
did.
didn't know-
I did.
I did. Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Because anybody I would have knew that was semi like or middle class, because I ain't know nobody rich. You know what I'm saying? So anybody that I knew that was middle class, man, they was boring. They was like
So
done. There was no
and that's
fun.
what I was gonna say. Because I was gonna say, like, I mean, you knew people that were successful, but they didn't do it how we did it.
No,
Like,
X no.
Nobody,
X no.
like, most don't do it how we did it. You know what I mean? Like, they be like, they get the money and like, so one of like, whenever I speak to to young folks or whatever, I tell them, I say, listen, dream big. You got the rest of your life to be average. Like, don't get beat down. Like, that's why I don't even think like, oh, well, you get out of high school and you're like, oh, I don't know what to do. McDonald's, Walmart. No, like at the very least, if you're not going to go to a trade school or something or apprenticeship, I think that's a good one too, an apprenticeship, or you're not going to do something to get upskilled. The first option for me, I would say go to the military. And that's not even generally something I would tell somebody to do, but it's much better than just going and working entry level at some restaurant somewhere. Like, because it gives you a chance to at least see the world. At the very least, at least you'll get to see the world
and to stay around your peer group.
Yeah,
it's the other option to be around people your age. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure you had. I mean, even we went to Cal, so it was a commuter school at the time, right? So
right,
even the guys I was in class with were older. Like I was in class with a 36-year-old man, a 50-year-old guy, like, you know what I'm saying? Who, like, I think at that time, like the steel industry or some industry collapsed, and them guys were coming back to school. You understand what I'm saying? So, and there wasn't like, I don't know why people weren't into engineering at the time, but maybe it's just computer engineering. It's the computer engineering, right? That people weren't necessarily into.
I think some of it
was fairly new
too. I think some of that was the area too.
Yeah, it's definitely where we were, but there wasn't a lot of schools that had computer engineering. Like, trust me, I thought about transferring a few times.
Because I know people that were older than us that were in that field, like whether they
definitely left. It wasn't
they were like
you had to search for.
They were at Tuskegee. They were at Tuskegee. They were in Nashville at Tennessee State.
Right.
That type of stuff. Like
like you had to search for that kind of degree from a particular school. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Where now it's pretty prevalent. Like you can go to any school and they all got computer science at this point. You know what I'm saying? But back then they didn't. You know what I'm saying?
And interestingly enough, I guess one of the things that was ended up happening to me, even though I was an athlete, just based off of like GPA and then my test scores and stuff like that, like those offers were coming to me. Like I remember Tuskegee coming to see me and telling me how they had an engineering program and like it was a direct pipeline to NASA. I was like, I have no interest in engineering. You should think about it. And
they didn't have computer engineering though. They didn't have.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah,
I know because.
And I was like, I'm good. I was like, I have no interest.
Yeah, they had civil. They had civil, electrical. You know what I mean? They had
space.
Industrial.
All of a sudden, they got some level of space engineering or whatever. Because I know a dude that's a rocket scientist that went there. But
that's not computer related though. That's more physics.
I mean, it's technology. So like, I think it was one based on like, because keep in mind where we're from, education like wasn't really like a real thing. Like, I mean, folks that was going to school like to become teachers. Like I remember people were saying like, oh, go to college and be a gym teacher. And I'm like, nah, I'm not. That's not the point. So a lot of the education, like it was, well, I forget what my man's name. He said, man, Pittsburgh is the place of the dream killers. Like they weren't dreaming big enough, but luckily, through family and then me being, getting this, get outside of Pittsburgh, I dreamed a lot bigger. Like I remember me telling people that I was going to be a doctor, and people was always like, would look at me like, a doctor? Like you can do that? Like I wanted to be a doctor since I was 6 years old. Yeah, I mean, good luck.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, good luck. Like that's I used to get that response a lot. But the thing that and we'll probably talk about this a little bit, but as we kind of like, as I, advise young folks, I'm like, man, shoot for the stars and, be singularly focused on it. And then if you be like, you know what, man, this ain't going to work. You'll look up and you be like, damn, I'm further than I anticipated anyway. So, so I think that's a good way to go about it. But again, like you said, if you don't necessarily have the aptitude or you don't have the love for academia, your next option shouldn't be, oh, let me just go get a job. Like, I suggest going to the military before you do that. And that's if you don't decide to go through the trades or to get some type of apprenticeship to upskill yourself. Because
let's rate these 1 through 4 though. So what will be your top thing, and then your next option? Like, how would you trickle it down?
So I think it varies, depending on the person. Like I always talk about, you have to meet the person where they are. But for me, college,
I feel like you put military right behind that.
Yeah, but I think it varies. Like, I mean, because and I'll tell you why. So let me just rank them first, and then I'll tell you why. So college, military, I guess we call it trades, and then what? School. Job?
Yeah, job. Yeah.
So, but the reason I ranked it the way it is, because in my opinion, trade is probably a better option. But and this is just, I don't have any data to back this up, but if you don't have the discipline for college, I wonder if you're going to have the discipline to go to trade school and then be a real full-fledged an adult in 18 months to go and start working for 30 years until you retire. I don't know if you're going to have that discipline if you didn't have the discipline to go to school for 4 years. So I wonder.
I think it's a little bit different though. No, because I think it's a little bit different though, because some people learn better being talked to, and some people learn better like hands-on. And I think when you're in a trade, you know what I mean, you have more of that, you have more of a mix, but it's more hands-on. So they're teaching you, but you're also learning as a part of that, you know what I mean? So it's not just so much you're getting dictation and then you're taking a test and you're writing notes and stuff like that. And you get a lot of that in college, and you have to write papers, and some people aren't good at writing. But in a trade school, man, it's more hands-on, especially if you're talking about like a technical school where you like going to school to be a mechanic, going to school to be a plumber, or going to culinary school. It's so much like even when I went to culinary school, we had our teaching classes in the morning, and we did all of our cooking in the afternoon. So we was learning in the morning, we were applying it in the afternoon. So it was like all hands on. So you got to see how all of this stuff worked together right away. You didn't have to, take a test, memorize this stuff, forget the stuff, you know what I mean? And then try to apply it 4 years later after you graduate.
Or be doing something that has nothing to do with
it
result.
Completely. Yeah. You're fully engulfed in it, and you're, like I said, you're hands-on. So it's like you're using technical skills right now. So not only are you, you learned it in the book, you're seeing it, you're doing it that same day. So there's much more ability for you to retain it, especially if you have a short attention span. You don't have, to be in class all day trying to memorize this stuff. You're actually doing stuff that'll keep your attention span better. So I think people like that often do better in trade schools than in a 4-year or 2-year college degree where they're, trying to sit in a classroom trying to hear.
I mean, I would also go to the military. That's nothing but you're on the job doing it day in, day out, right? I would think. I don't know.
And then they pay for your college afterward if you wanted to go.
I don't think it's necessarily as easy as you just said it. Like nobody's ever said
discipline.
There's some level of you gotta take classes like while you're not doing your job. It's never a straight situation. You know what I mean? Like you mess around, you end up being one of those old college students.
Oh, you will.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
So and I'm curious because like this isn't like the whole trade school route. That's not one that I'm very familiar with. So I'm curious. So like in the culinary space, how long is that program?
There's different programs. So it depends. If you're going for just like a culinary diploma, I believe that's like 10 to 12 months. If you're going for a culinary degree, like an associate's degree in culinary, that's about 18 months. So it's about 12 months of actual classes and learning, and then about 6 months of an externship is what they call it. So then you could do that. Now, if you're going for a 4-year degree, you're going for a bachelor's in culinary, then you have a lot more varying periods. But it just depends on what you're going to. And if you're going for a diploma, then you're usually trying to get right into the and into the workforce pretty quickly. And that program turns around, like I said, 8 to 10 months, and pretty quickly. And then, like I said, if you want the associates, you want to go to the next route, you're thinking about maybe getting in the management or something like that. You do the associates, and that's like I said, 12 months, and then a 6-month externship. Yeah.
I ain't gonna
So-
lie.
If they still have those programs, because that's when they used to have
for
the
me,
big
for me,
schools.
it was assumptions, right? So I was making
Yeah.
assumptions, in that people that are going that route, it's probably because maybe they, like you said, they don't have the attention span to want to be in class for 4 years, or maybe there's just a financial need that they need to start working right away. So that was my thought process.
Yeah,
for
but
folks that
we
are
also
doing
don't have
trades,
like
right?
math classes and English classes and all those bullcrap
Yeah.
classes that some people struggle with. You know what I mean? So you don't have those.
Right.
Everything is
Everything
an
is what
applied
you're
class.
interested in, like right now.
Yeah, everything is
Yeah.
an applied class. It goes directly to it.
And one of the things that was a concern for me is the discipline and maturity. So for me, I couldn't see myself 12 months or 18 months out of high school having to go work and being like a grown man and just work. I don't know if I would have had the maturity and discipline.
Yeah.
So I wonder about that.
It just sounds so boring. Like, yeah, and that's exactly what I was saying. That's exactly what I was about to say. Like, the thought of, oh yeah, in 10 months, you'll be ready to go get your first job. Get my first
You're like,
job.
yeah. Like,
See, it
that's-
didn't bother
I
me
don't
that
do
much
that.
because I started working when I was 14. Like I had my first job when I was 14, and I was
Nah,
working all year round since I was 14.
there's a difference between those jobs that you know what I mean, working at the grocery store and bagging groceries and working, like, you know, those jobs that you could play with, and starting your career of, like I said, because adulthood to me at the time, the thought of it was boringness. You know what
Yep.
I'm saying? It was just like, and from my experience from working those grocery store jobs and those restaurant jobs, like I said, I'm sitting, like, my coworkers is a 45-year-old old lady. You know what I'm saying? With missing teeth. Like, I'm ready to go and work with that. No, like, you know
or
what I'm
some reformed hood dude that's giving you bad habits.
Something, yeah, like.
Like I remember that was my experience.
People you're learning bad habits not to do. So that's how I always took it. Like I'm listening, like a lot of the older guys that I work with, because I did go to those like restaurant jobs. That was pretty much exclusively all of my jobs, like restaurants and country clubs and stuff like that. Working all around there. And yeah, a lot of the people were older. But most of the older people were like the dishwashers or the chefs and things like that. But like a lot of people at my level were my age. So I'm around my age, and I was, working with them because we all went to the same high school. So we was all working at the same places, but we did have those people there. And it taught, for me, it taught me what not to do. Like I'm looking at this guy over here, looking at that guy over there, and I'm like, okay. Like even when I got out of culinary school, when I started working in the restaurants, and I'm looking at the head chefs, going through 3 divorces or whatever, 2 divorces, whatever it is, don't get to see their kids because they're working, nights, weekends, holidays. They don't get to be around their family, and their life was miserable. It changed the whole trajectory of my life. It was like, dog, do I really want to be a chef this bad? You know what I mean? That I want to commit myself to this type of torture because, I'm from a big family. So I'm a big family guy. And it's like to see that, I'm like, is this really? And that's what prompted me to go back
time
to school.
off. And like, just think about the structure that we had to live through. The clocking in at the clock, punching in. You know what I'm saying? Hey, they only give you 4 hours a week or like a month. You had to earn your hours. Like, the structure of those jobs were brutal. Yeah. I remember I was walking through a grocery store and I seen this young girl run into a clock. She's running to go clock in, like, oh, I'm late. And I just had to scream back, it won't be like that forever. Like, you know what I'm saying? But just the thought of that, like, and to think that this is about to be my life, this clocking in, this, oh my gosh. I couldn't, the idea of it, and to tell me like, oh yeah, come do this for 10 months. And in 10 months, we're going to have you right in that X. No, I'm playing football.
Right into the rat race. I'm
going to play. And even after we graduated, right? And I had a regular job working like at the bank. I finally got that bank job. You know what I'm saying? So like, but after I got a degree, then they like, oh yeah, you can go answer phones for us, right? So I got the bank job, and I would like all giddy about it, and I would go to the bus stop and like, just talking to people because I'm just happy to be in the world. I'm fresh out, and they're like, can't wait till Friday. Like that's all people would say. Oh, I can't wait till Friday. All week. Oh, it's Thursday. One more day till Friday. And I was like, yo, like, is that life where you just can't wait till the weekend for 2 days then to get right back
5 days
into
to
it?
get 2.
5 days to get 2? Is that life? I don't want to live like that. I really don't. And I just been blessed that tech is where it is and did what it did, where the structure, I think all of us pretty much have a pretty solid structure, livable, to where we don't have to be miserable, depressed, clocking in. Like, you know what I'm saying? But the idea of that sounds miserable. You know what I mean? And then never again around your peer group. It's like life is over. I can see that though. So
I don't know why. Like I feel like you have this huge attachment with the peer group, and I that never crossed my mind for a second. Like never, like zero has
like
it ever crossed my mind. It's like it's like because I got my set people, so it's like I don't, you know what I mean. I never really thought about the peer group that I'm working because I got my set 6 people around 20 different states. That's it. I can move wherever. These are my people,
yeah,
and I'll see you when I get there. So it's never like I never really cared about the peer group as far as our age group. Like I just kind of looked at the peer group as those with the same interests as me, and some of them are younger than me, some of them are older than me. You know what I mean? And we kind of just vibe in the same way where we can hang out, at work and maybe go to the bar, but they're not coming to my house. You know what I mean? And we're not, you know what I mean? We don't have nothing else going on, but I never really like as much as you're saying it, like I've never really thought about it in that way to where it was ever, but you're right. I'm a loner. So I never really cared about a peer group. I was a peer group of one.
Yeah. And I mean, even to now though, more than just having a peer group, it's an environment too. Cause I'm used to a locker room. I'm used to the boys hanging out. I'd rather do work with the fellas day in, day out. Like, you know what I'm saying? And making those jokes and putting in work that way. Like I'm used to that environment. And that's another thing that kind of helped. I probably stuck around football longer than I need to, just because I just wanted to be around the guys. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that energy, that's not in the world. That's not at the job unless you're doing construction or something. And even still,
and even then, it's not the same.
It ain't the same because you're working next to a 65-year-old dude telling you how to swing hammers and clean up the nails after the. I did that too, right? And it's just like, man, this is whack, man. And like, so in people's lives was so miserable. Like I work with a guy doing construction where we would go to work, he would get a beer, get some scratch offs, we would go home, and that was his life. Like, and I'm like, yo, this is terrible. I'm not gonna go hoop or nothing like that. Oh, in the call center job? Oh my gosh. Absolutely terrible. Like I remember like thinking I woke up, went to work, and came home. When in about time, like they had me on the weird shift, like a 3 to 11, where like you have no time to do nothing.
I don't know what kind of call center you was in, but I managed one. They enjoyed it.
No, this wasn't just. It was
okay.
Remember Echo Star? That ring a bell?
Yeah, they did like internet or something, right?
No, it was Dish Network.
Okay.
It was Dish Network's call center over there in McKeesport. You know what I'm saying? Yes, the peer group. Now people were fairly young in Echo Star, but you didn't talk to them because everybody. It's like beep, beep, beep. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the calls came through. There was no time to crack a joke or nothing. It was straight beep, beep, beep. Like pounding that phone like that. Oh my gosh, depressing. Like life, there was no hooping afterwards because you're not getting home till midnight. You know what I'm saying? Like it was a terrible situation. So like then you gotta like that's one of those things like, oh, we're gonna give you Tuesday off and we'll give you Sunday off. Tuesday and Sunday. What?
Right.
Like you couldn't even get a back-to-back day. Like people were fighting to get 2 days in a row. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so yeah, adulthood just seems terrible. It seemed terrible. Like moving
even
down
for
here.
Me, yeah, for me, even the people that were really doing well in what we're calling middle class, it still didn't seem like, I was like, that's a lot of work for not a lot of reward. Like I remember thinking that. So me being me, I delayed it as much as I could, as long as I could. And then I made my sacrifices in the work that I put in worth it once I finally, reached that pinnacle.
Yeah.
Because man, like I don't like going. Well, you know what? Let's move on because we still need to talk about military. I think that's an option that more people need to think about. So let's go there.
So I don't know. None of us here has been to the military to really know how good of an option that the military is. I know so it works for some people, and it hasn't worked for a lot of other people. I hear more stories about people getting discharged from it, not understanding the reasons why, but more people get discharged than anything, or they treat that like a sentence too. Like, man, 4 years and I'm out of here. And some people be like, if I get 20 in, and they thought about that, think about that, 20 years.
So I come from a military family, right? So keep in mind, if you don't have the aptitude, and like I come from a family that education was highly preached, but for the ones that they saw, they were like, you don't have the aptitude for it. So initially it was, being in Pittsburgh, they're like, hey, like they can get you in a steel mill job, no problem. Like, they was making 50 grand, 50 grand, no, just a hell. My pops, man, God bless the dead, man. He said he had left high school because he was making 50. He's like, I'm making more than my teachers. He's like, I don't need no. And it just so happened that my grandmother made him go back and finish his degree. Or finish his diploma, which it ended up being, it helped him. But he was like, ain't the whole purpose of this to get a good job? I got one. So him and his boys, because my family was big, and I guess there was a steel mill in Braddock somewhere or whatever. So they got him a job early, and they was doing that. And he was like, man, I worked all night. I'm not about to go to school in the morning. I make more than my teacher. So not realizing that in a couple of years, the steel mills were going to go away. So if you don't necessarily have the aptitude for it, that was the next best option, was to go and do the military. Now, granted, it's tough. By no means am I saying it's easy work, but if you know that you don't have many other options, it'll keep you in there. And I mean, obviously it's a long way down the road, but like I actually know people went in at 18, was retiring at 38, 40 years old. So, I mean, it's definitely a good option if you can discipline yourself to stick around and stick with the process. But me having other options, in my opinion, better options, like I say, where you stand is determined by where you sit. For me, I feel I had better options, but for somebody who that's the best option, I totally say, man, go for it. It's a whole lot better than going somewhere and working for minimum wage, coming out of high school. So it gives you a certain level of discipline. And even, now being in HR, it gives you a certain level of distinction. Even if you don't have a degree, there's a certain level of distinction to say, well, this person, one, they have discipline. Two, they can execute a mission, and three, they can persevere through the dog days of whatever we're going to give them. So they have a leg up on the just run-of-the-mill high school diploma earner. And we talk about trades and stuff like that. A lot of people don't know this, but I mean, you can go be an electrical line worker and make $100 grand. Like, there's good money to be made. It's tough work, but there's good money to be made.
There's good money in trades. Like, we're definitely not going to sit that to no backseat.
Yeah, so no shade. Like,
I think that's actually become more of a thing than the other options economically. And I kind of want to slide into. It looked like we're going to be here for a minute. I hope y'all got time.
Let's get into it.
But financially, what's the best ways to make our kids the most financially stable, mature? What's the best financial possibility to send them out to? And this is kind of what I kind of want to get into, as far as, do we kick them out? Do we keep them home? How do we protect them financially? And what do we set up? What are we teaching them so they could be productive adults financially? What kind of skills do they need for that?
So again, I think it depends on the aptitude and that kid themselves. But so what I'll do is I'll use my daughter as an example. I don't think the girl's got a B since she's been in high school. So obviously she has an aptitude for school. So I'm definitely pushing her towards the college route. But what I'll say is it ain't just about going to the best school that, will have you. There's a financial piece to it, because there was a time when it was like, oh, wherever I go, daddy got it. I do, but I'm no fool. I'm like, you have a certain aptitude and you have a certain level of pedigree to where they should be giving you money to go to their school. Like we talked about with the whole Divine Nine thing earlier, like they're vetting people who have the probability of success, not just the possibility. So with that being said, they're going to try to recruit you and they're going to try to entice you to come to their school, because at some point you're going to be something great and their name is going to be attached and they're going to be able to piggyback off of your greatness because they had some level of, assistance in that greatness. So I think that one, have a plan. So like she wants to be a lawyer. So I'm like, okay, so go to a school, because you can't be a lawyer just with a 4-year degree. So, okay, we're going to school. So we need to have at least money spent as possible for those first 4 years. So let's start there. Okay. So now that we're done with that, make sure that you have the grades and make sure you have the network and the opportunity to get yourself in position to actually be accepted into a law school. So now, once you're in a law school, again, finance plays a role, but again, I'm willing
money for that too.
Yeah, there's money there as well, but I'm willing to foot some of that bill. But I know that that's coming. So instead of just trying to shoot my whole, I'm going to say that, to have everything happen, to spend all my money, to spend all my money on the bachelor's degree, knowing that there's going to be a JD coming after it, I'm not going to go and spend all that money on the first portion of the dream. So there's a certain level of the process, finance, and putting yourself in position to be successful, because at the end of the day, it's about making a good living and being able to be comfortable as an adult. It's not just about, oh, this is a passion of mine. I always wanted to be a lawyer. You don't want to be a broke lawyer. Like nobody said that. So keeping that in mind, I think that's all encompassing to get yourself or to get your kid in a place that they're in the best position to succeed.
Lee?
Yeah. So, I kind of look at everything as a partnership. So, for me, with my kids, my daughter specifically, because she's 17. So next year she's on her way out and she's adamant about, going away for college. So wherever that journey takes her. But for me, it's like, I'm going to do my part, but you got to do your part. So, whatever that means. I mean, you're keeping your grades good and above, well above average. I mean, exemplary. She's, doing what they call those advanced classes and all this other stuff, in preparation for college, trying to get some college credits and doing those advanced classes and things like that. And then also, getting her to start applying early, to do early applications so she could try to get some of those grant and scholarship opportunities, before everybody else does that applies, on time or when they're supposed to apply. So, and just making sure that she's like, she's doing other extracurricular activities so she could build up her resume in order to, get the eyes of some of these schools that, maybe looking for some more multifaceted children. And then I say, look, man, you try to get all the money you can, for school. And then, whatever you can't get on your own, then that's where we come in. I don't want you to have this idea that, oh, my parents got it. My parents got it. No, look, you're starting your adult journey. So you need to have at least as much skin in the game as we do. So, you know what I mean? So that's where it's like, okay, I got, in Pennsylvania, I don't know if y'all got it down there, but in Pennsylvania, we got these PA 529 plans that, you put into, you save for college tuition and anything that comes with college. So, started that a long time ago. So I've been pouring money into those things and also just looking for, other opportunities for parents.
Like a 504 or something like that?
No, mine's it's called
It's
the
a
PA
529.
Yeah,
it's the same. We have the same thing here.
Okay.
So I decided not to go that route because I was like, well, one, what if she don't need it? Or what if she decides not to go to school? So that way I still had the flexibility with that money. I did some other stuff like IRAs or whatever, but yeah, we have it in Georgia. Because I remember when I was coming out of school, the only place I think it was available was Montana or something like that. But yeah, so it's a thing. Yeah, Georgia has it.
Yeah. So I got that going on, and then I got other different investments and things that I got in her name, so that when she graduates from college, or graduates from trade school, or graduates from wherever she's going to, where she's out ready to live on her own. Now I got something for her to start with. It's like, here, this is for you to start, but you understand that you don't have to leave this house until you're ready. You know what I mean? You want to go away to school, experience some life, grow up a little bit. You could come back home, You know, come back home, get yourself set up, you know, establish yourself, and you don't have to leave here until you're ready to leave here. And I think that's the piece I'm trying to do to get my kids set up. Is like I say, you put in the work on your end, and I'll put in the work on my end. You know what I mean? This isn't going to be a one-way street where you think we just going to take care of you or we just going to do that. No, you have to put the work in, because, you know, I have friends whose parents paid for them to go to school and everything, and now they're at home living with their parents 25, 26, 27, 28, and they ain't got no job, no prospects, and got student loans to pay back. So it's like, you know, absolutely not. So you got to put in the work, and I'll put in the work. So as much as you willing to put into yourself, I'm willing to put into you, and I'm going to be pushing you and guiding you, and I'm here so you can make some mistakes. You got us to fall back on, but you're not going to live a mistake, you know. And so that's just the same. That's the stuff that I push in there all the time to try to make sure, you know, hey, you know, you're as much in control of your success as we are in helping you to succeed.
So I like what you said, and I like that you have a plan. Mo, you really didn't go into details on your plan on making your daughter financially aware, or
so I was actually, so here's how where it comes in then. And I'm glad you brought that up. So my plan is to basically run with a process that I saw my uncle do. So essentially what he was like was, hey man, you know, go to school, figure it out. You know, if you got to take out loans. And like, I didn't understand it at the time, but I was like, man, you know, there's always that one uncle that been getting money as long as you've been alive. So I'm like, you got it. But he didn't go like, oh, I'm going to start forking out money every semester or whatever. He was making the kid take out loans and all that or whatever. Because in the way he explained it to me, which he didn't do it at the time, but he explained it after the fact, was, well, you know, it's interest free at the time. So he had this money baking and collecting interest and stuff like that. And when that kid graduated, because he was like, hey, get scholarships, do whatever, so you don't have a whole bunch of loans, but whatever, right? And when they were finished, he handed them a check for 50 grand. Bam. Do what you want, whether you're going to pay it off or, and shoot, they actually end up not paying it off.
It's not collecting interest while they're in school.
That was dope. That was game.
That is very, I like that. And then, hey, before that interest kick in, that gives you a chance to really put the money to the side, let it collect interest.
Yep.
And then that is kind of smart. I ain't gonna lie about it.
Yep. So he paid off some of it, and then he went backpacking around Europe and Australia for 2 years. So
that is kind of smart. Say the bread or whatever. Like, oh, what's the tuition? Bet. All right, boom, yep. Put that away, put it away. And
whereas the kid was like, yo, man, I'm putting myself through school. So they thought, you know what I mean? So they wasn't just messing off like, oh, Miss Daddy's money, drinking, you know, shots.
Yeah.
It wasn't that.
No,
I'm putting myself through school. Yep.
Yeah.
So they had a little bit of skin in the game, even though there was a safety net that they didn't even realize. Like he was teaching you to be a trapeze artist, not realizing you had a net up under you.
Right, because you're thinking now you're semi being responsible, and you got this burden on your head, like, oh, I got to really pay this back, blah blah blah.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And then, hey, you finished. Here you go. And I didn't make money on the deal because you forked it out, but it's with money that you was able to accrue and not pay as much.
Yep.
No, that's solid. That's solid. To throw something out there, I work for a guy who our company would let us buy discounted stock shares. It generally went up. So let's say the stock was, at the time, the stock price was $72, right? You bought it for $65. He would buy, like, every 3 months you can cash out free of penalty. You had to own it for 3 months. That was the deal. Every 3 months, he would buy stock share and then pay his mortgage every 3 months he would sell it for full price. You know what I'm saying? And that's how he paid off his mortgage. I was like, that's genius. I didn't even think about.
So somebody put me onto that game.
Yeah,
somebody put me onto that game a long time ago, back in the day, man. So you know, for the most part, I only work for Fortune 500. So for the most part, that stock's gonna go up.
Yeah.
And the way it worked for us was we got a 15% discount on our stocks. And it wasn't like we weren't necessarily buying it at the time. It was they pull all the money together, and you only did it, I think it was twice a year. So at the halfway point and then at the end of the year, they would pull all your money, like you would take money out of your check, every check, and then at that halfway point, they would buy the stock. And what you could do is I could sell it the next day and make 15% on my money. I use it as a piggy bank, and that's how they taught me how to do it. So I was doing that type of thing. So that's how I was able to, basically pay my house off early, like half the time, right? Doing stuff like that. But one time or a couple of times, I forgot to sell it back. And that's how I actually got some of the stock that I still have, which was great.
Yeah, it ended up working out.
Yeah, because at the time, I mean, I was bad at it. $19 a share. It's like 300 now.
So let's talk about morals, right? And putting your kid out into the world with some solid morals, where they're not the kid kicking over garbage cans, you know what I'm saying, or doing weird random stuff out in the world. Once you release them to the world, and they're like, "Hey, we're free." How do we bring in or instill some of these moralities that they need to have to not go off the deep end for real, to not be like, hey, I'm a suburban kid, now that I'm in college, I'm only eating noodles, I'm mad, I'm selling drugs, I'm jumping on the pole. Morality is you know what I'm saying. How do we, what kind of building blocks do we need to give our kids to even make it safe for them to go out and be in the world as responsible adults?
And like, Vic, you probably even gonna be like, really? Like, I think a starting block is have a belief in something higher than you, whether it's religion or whatever. You better believe in something. Believe in something, like, you know what I mean? If you living like there ain't no God, you better hope you're right. You know what I mean? So fear of something, you know what I mean? So I think that it starts with that. Secondly is, as you're raising that child, make sure you're giving them a little bit of leash. Like, don't suffocate them to the point to where they're like, I'm free, and they go crazy. Like, so they have a little bit of freedom, and you can kind of see how they navigate that independence while there's still a little bit of a cocoon around them. Because, all of us have kind of seen it. That one that, that girl was sheltered. Oh, it's going to be a long semester. You know what I mean? So we understand it. So knowing that you don't want your child to go through that. So giving them a little bit of a leash prior to them actually being free is key. And then one of the things that I always implement with my daughter, and like I say, I think I stole this from you, Vic. Like, if we're out at the mall, I'll be like, hey, you see that? Don't do that. I'll be like, you see how they acting, you see how they look? Don't ever embarrass me like that. Don't ever put my last name on the line like that. And lastly, one of the things that I always tell her, I'm like, I never trust anybody. I never trust a person that'll do anything for money. You know what I mean? Like, and one of the things that I tell her, I'm like I give her allowance, and I give her a decent sized allowance to where she knows what it's like to have some money and know how to manage it. And like, on a very small scale, she pays her own bills. Like, the only bill that she has is a Spotify bill, but she gets an allowance. And I mean, I would imagine it's probably like her Spotify bill is probably like $6. So it's 3% of her take home pay, right? So we started that, and so we did that for about a year. And then the second iteration of that, we started talking about investing, because we were talking about the cash flow quadrant, and it was a really dope discussion. It came out of nowhere, but it was something that I was like, yes, I finally get to, because I've always been trying to teach her financial literacy, but she just didn't care. She's like, Daddy, you got money. But I'm like, I want you to keep it. You know what I mean? So we were talking about being able to invest that money. And one of the things I told her the 50, 30, 20 budgeting. That might even be a Dave Ramsey principle, I think. So 50% is for your necessities, 30% is for your wants, and then 20% is like savings / investing. And one of the things we were talking about cash flow quadrants and how you're going to bring in money. And she was talking about, okay, I want to, I'll have a job. Yeah, maybe I have a side hustle, a side business. What else can I have? And I was like, well, you can be an investor. And she was like, oh, okay. So we were talking about Robinhood and stuff like that. And she was talking about like, what she was asking me, what should she invest in? And I was like, invest in something that you can't live without. And she was like, well, my phone and search engines. I was like, Google? And she was like, yeah. She was like, can I invest in that? I was like, yeah, it's a company called Alphabet. So she bought her first stock being Google / Alphabet last week. So now she has that tenet of how to manage and budget your money. You know what you have coming in, and you can allocate this portion of it, being the 20%, to investing. That way your money makes money for you. So those are kind of those tenets that will help you uplift and keep the standard that you've been raised with. Because that sounds good to keep that standard, but if you get out there and daddy pulls the money away from you, you might be out here risking your morals and compromising to live the standard of living that you're used to. So just kind of those tenets, I think, are good ones to keep them from jumping out the window or going off the deep end.
I think me and Leifer have a similar story on why we decided to stay out of trouble, and it's because we got into trouble. So like getting a little piece of getting kitty jail for me kept me out of big jail. You know what I'm saying? Doing stupid things when it really counted to go to prison for, like seeing that kind of pathway. But I don't know how to scare straight my kid, because I know that's basically what happened to me, was a scare straight. Like, oh, you're gonna put me in Schumann Center, and you know what I mean, I'm gonna go do the boot camps, and I'm gonna go to academy and see how terrible this stuff is. Okay, I'm straight for the rest of my life. I don't want that. You know what I'm saying? And then it's just only gonna get worse. But I don't necessarily know how to do, you know what I'm saying? The next
So I took the opposite approach. Do you think for our kids that's necessary? Like, instead of that, I'm trying to push them forward instead of trying to dangle them in front of the shark to be like, yeah, like, you don't want to do this, you're gonna get bit.
I don't know, because well, it depends, right? Because let's say me and you, we got different kids, where yours is about motion and mine is it's really just about comfort and being stagnant for real. Like,
yeah,
it don't hurt. It ain't like, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
there's really nothing to like motivate to be like, hey, get these grades, or you know what I'm saying, or we going college. We could try to push towards a trade, but you just, the anxiety of thinking about adulthood and being bored, and now I would hope that he would look at our lives and be like, adulthood ain't boring,
right?
So that's the only thing I can really like, because I be trying to tell you
like sounds good to me. Like I want a piece of that.
Yeah, and I hope, yeah. So taking them to here and there, like you're like, oh, I took my daughter to like Japan, and you know what I'm saying. So you would hope that that's enough to be like, hey, stay straight, because on the opposite end, that ain't over there.
So
you understand what I'm saying? So
this is gonna sound bad, but so I think there is a little. Now that I think about it, there is a little bit of scared straight, right? So keep in mind, my daughter goes between two houses, so she gets to see the difference. I'm like, you see how I go about it, and you see the way I live.
That's slightly though. That's not that.
Look, but
that's not like.
But she said, like, okay, I don't want to live like this. I want to live like this. So I have to do these things in order to have that life.
Yeah.
Right. And then the other, and this is very slightly scared straight. Like, if she does anything, like, I'm like, she's slacking off on work or whatever, extracurriculars, I'm like, oh, don't worry about it. Instacart's always going to hire you. And she'd be like,
that's
let me go get my work
done.
That's
like I said, that's not one of those miserable, you know what I'm saying?
So to a lesser extent, that is how I scare her straight.
What you got, Lee?
So I think number one of the things that I try to do with my kids and my extended kids, and my nieces and nephews and my street nieces and nephews, is like I try to love them immensely, like love them in a way to where it hurts them to disappoint me. You know what I mean? Like love them so much that disappointing me literally hurts them. Like there's times where, my daughter does stuff and I'm just like, she be wanting me to yell at her. She wants me to scream at her. She wants me to, get mad at discipline. And I'm just like, it's like, say something, just anything. Just don't just sit there quiet. And I'm like, she's like, are you mad? I'm like, nah, I'm extremely disappointed. Like you know better than this. I've taught you better than this. I didn't raise that. I don't know who that is, and that hurts her more than anything. And she usually snaps back into shape and, gets on the straight and narrow. So, and that's the same with, like I said, a lot of my extended kids, just like, you know what I mean? I love them so much in a way that disappointing me, just it kills them. So, I start there. As they get older, it might hurt them less and less, but I start there. You know what I mean? Secondly, I try to, you know, set them up in the background so they're not desperate for anything. So when I say set them up in the background, I mean stuff like, I add them on as co-users of my credit cards. So, so with my credit cards, like they have their own account on my credit card. So every time I pay a bill, every time I buy something or I pay a bill, they get, they build credit history. So by the time they get out of high school, you know what I mean? They already have a credit history. They already got, 700, 750 credit score because, of what I'm building on the background. So they're not coming into the game on the struggle bus, not being able to apply for anything, not being able to get anything because they don't have they're just starting to build a credit
They
history.
don't have a credit history.
They already got a credit history once they, when they leave my house, they got a credit history.
No credit. So no credit is worse than bad credit. I remember finding that out. I bought a car at 23%. When I was, and this is in 04.
Yeah.
Like that should be criminal because I had no credit history. Now, so I know you put them as an authorized user, but you don't give them a card though, right?
No, my daughter has a card. Yeah. My daughter has a card that has her name on it, but she's not allowed to use it without asking. And if she uses it, she has to let me know ahead of time how much money she's going to spend. And there has to be, and if it's beyond what I allow her to spend, and there has to be a plan to pay back that extra. So, she's never been irresponsible. She doesn't even take the card with her unless, it's one of those times where we negotiate that she can use it, or like she goes away for the summer, stays with her grandparents in Florida or wherever, stays with her aunts or something like that. She'll have the credit card for emergencies or something like that. Or she's going out to an amusement park or something like that. And you know what I mean? She don't want to have to ask somebody for something. She could use the card to, get her little stuff in here. But I check the card every single day. Even if she doesn't have it, I check the balance every day to make sure to see if I'm spending something or if some unauthorized stuff comes out. So, but yeah, she's had it for, I don't know, 3 years maybe. And I mean, there's been no ridiculous stuff on it, but that's also because I feel like she doesn't want to disappoint me. So she's not going to do some goofy stuff that's going to, make her look bad or going to sour our relationship.
When she go to college, look, she might test that theory.
Man, I just loving you more. Good luck, bro.
No, I think that's a good starting point. Because I remember it was the same way with my grandfather. Like, man would give me the shirt off his back, and they had bread. I didn't even realize it, but they had bread. So, like, I didn't necessarily want to ask. Like, I was like, I want to get it myself because I want to prove to him that I'm able to. And if I did, like, trust me, I've done some very stupid stuff. Like, I never necessarily got in trouble with the law, but I've done some very stupid stuff to where I just didn't get caught, but, from a law enforcement standpoint. But when it was known that I did it, they're like, and I'm like, I know, like I remember having,
but it's not going to keep you from the mistake.
It did
not.
So I had
not from continuously doing it, but once you do it that one time,
Yep. I had a 0.75 my first semester of school. And I remember, man, like you would have thought they caught me selling dope. Like, I mean, I heard everything from, we gonna pull you out of school. I'm like, what you mean you gonna pull me out of school? Like, y'all don't pay for this. Like, I play football. Like, they paid for it. Like, what are you talking about? I mean, they told me we gonna pull you out of school. Like, I remember my girlfriend at the time, the father said, maybe you shouldn't date him no more. Like, they tried to do everything to me. Like, it was bananas. Like, it was bananas. Like, I was like, really? Like, but to me, one of the things that it taught me, it hardened me to think that no one's going to come to save me, and people can turn on you very quickly. Like, because I remember when I went to school, everybody was cheering for me. Oh, he's going to be a doctor. If you don't go to the league, we will, all that. And then however long a semester is, 4 months later, they're like, he's washed. I don't even know if you need to be with him no more. So then, I end up going back, and I didn't make the dean's list for the rest of my time in college after that. So that level of disappointment, so not just avoiding it, but actually experiencing the disappointment, it kept me from doing it again. So it's a reality if you actually have enough reverence for somebody to not want to disappoint them.
That would make me turn back on you. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you turned on me. It's not even a what we need to do to help, or you know what I'm saying? Like, what? You just
But again, that's just a
throw me
starting
away?
point. That's just a starting point. That's not the end all be all. That's just where I start. You know, building that relationship and loving you so much that you don't want to disappoint me. You know what I mean? And then we built off of that.
Maybe I'm tainted from you know what they be saying on the movie. Would you rather be fair or loved? You know what I'm saying? And they always choose fair.
I would rather you fear losing my love.
Yeah.
Good luck.
It's not good luck. I mean,
but that's what I'm gonna start with. That's what I'm gonna start.
It's
a
reality for a lot of
like
people.
I mean, let's be
especially
let's be serious
especially
about
with a
that.
daughter, especially with a daughter, because we know how they're wired.
Are you afraid of losing anybody's love?
I'm not, but like I said, this is my daughter.
I mean, we're also 40-plus-year-old men. You know what I mean? We're not just coming out of high school, you know, desiring the love of our parents, you know, wanting to belong, wanting them to care about us, wanting to receive love back. You know what I mean? Wanting the respect of our parents.
Listen, I know a savage.
But no, I think that's a good way to start,
who don't care about none of that. Like, so it's, I mean, the fear of losing love is just like.
Actually, you don't.
I just I know plenty actually. You know what I'm saying? Who
they're just good pretenders. They're just good pretenders.
What people think about them. So it's
great.
I don't know. I just don't think it's a very good plan. I mean, it's
just a starting point. It's the foundation.
It sounds movie-like.
It's not a plan. It's not the plan. It's just a starting point. That's what I'm building since childhood. I'm building that relationship since birth. So when we get here, then there's that level of that. But then also there are teaching lessons after that. And like I said, there's also the credit standpoint to where now you're not going into the world starting at no credit. You're going into the world with a credit history. Also, you're going into the world having some kind of financial literacy to where you know what it means to lose, you know what I mean, money. So you're not out here just going wild. But then also, like what Mo said, you know, having that balance between what you're giving them and what you're taking away, because you don't want to give them so much. And then when they get to college, you just strip them of everything. And now they feel like in order to maintain the lifestyle that they had, they have to go hop on the pole and spin around and you know, shake that ass for Drake. You know what I mean? So, so, you know what I mean? So just having that balance to where, you know what I mean? It's still like, okay, well, you need this. Okay, great. What do you need it for? All right, cool. You know, let me help you with that. Let me help you with this. You know what I mean? And things like that. So you're not leaving them out there by themselves where they feeling like, oh, they got to figure out everything. Now there's some stuff that you're going to have to figure out on your own. You know what I mean? There's some holes that you're going to have to dig yourself out of. But I'm not leaving you so much in the lurch that you feel like you got to go out here and, you know what I mean, do something strange for some change.
I'm just playing a scenario in my head. Like if I ever met somebody and they was like, yeah, I didn't do bad because I didn't want to lose my parents' love. I would probably be.
They might not have processed it like that.
I would have laughed at them like, what? You don't want to lose your parents' love? That's why you ain't out here getting this money, man. You better get this money. Your parents is on the other side of the country.
They might not necessarily process it like that. Like I said, I didn't say lose the love. I said you didn't want to disappoint them. You know what I mean?
Same thing, right? I don't want to disappoint my parents. You know, actually, my mom used to put that in my head, right? I worked too hard for you to go sell drugs. Like, and I did use it for a while. I used that for a long time. Like, I'm not doing that because my mom worked too hard for me not to do that. And it worked for a minute, but it got to a point where I was just like, that's bogus.
So maybe it isn't even like your parents' love. It's just whoever you respect. Like, so for me, I remember, like I said, man, I remember when I came home, and I had to go to a community college for a year. And I remember having to have that awkward explanation of why I was home was so embarrassing to me.
Yeah. Or just being home at all. Being home at all. Wait, ain't you supposed to be at school? Why are you?
Like, so that pushed me to want to go back to school. Not that I ever stopped because I was still in community college, but that pushed me to want to go back to school.
I got to get out of here.
me working at a bank and working with those 45-year-old, their dreams were already killed.
Yeah.
This can't be me. And I remember after that being in school, I'm up Cal and I'm in school. And whenever it was getting tough and maybe I was just so broken, I was like, man, I don't know. This might not be worth it. I would go back to a place of thinking about, I could still be working at that bank making $6 an hour.
Yeah.
I remember on check day, because I was kind of in the hood. So on check day, I had $1 million go through my hands.
We really work for $5.15, $5.50.
Yo,
$6.
Yo,
I remember you telling me you work for you was getting $6. I was like, what? Put me on.
Hey, I had $1 million go through my hand. And when my check came that Friday, it was $215. and because back then, I had Sprint, I had went over my minutes. So my overages were 150.
Wow.
Nothing. And I remember thinking, I'm about to steal something. And that's what I do. I got to go to college. I like, man, because you steal something from a bank, you go to federal prison.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I got to go. Like, yeah, like I remember having that thought. I'm about to steal something. Well, I'm going to college.
For this last segment, though, I want to speak about how do we know that your kid is socially ready to be integrated with the world on their own without you?
You don't. I actually steal this from Leifer. I mean, you simulate it. You put them in certain situations that simulate it, but you never really know. You know what I mean? Like, some of the methods that I talked about, having financial literacy, understanding, kind of the 4 cash flow quadrants, being able to budget your money in a way to where you're not house poor or car poor or, robbing Peter to pay Paul, understanding, in order to live comfortably, 50, 30, 20 might be a good method to start out with until I find something better. So you never really know, but you give them the tools to where they can fall.
Let me slightly interject, right? This is a suburban question, a suburban issue. And I now that I think about it, right? Like, because I thought, man, this is a good question. Like, how do we know that they're socially not going to be awkward out in the street? When we were in the street our entire lives, you know what I mean? 6 years old, walking to the playground by ourselves, or like no supervision, walking to going to the store, making transactions.
First world problems.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I guarantee you, nobody was ever wondering that about me. Like, is he going to be okay?
Yeah. Look,
I remember I got a bike, and it was like I had a car because I was going back to the old neighborhood. Like I'm riding, I don't know what's that, 3-4 miles back to the old neighborhood at night.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so
like, yeah, I know the way.
Right.
Cars going past everything. Yeah. Like, you were straight though.
Yeah, wasn't nobody worried about, where are we gonna be okay, or where are we gonna be able to adjust to adulthood?
Because we got home before the street light, or
yeah, we were already putting ourselves in adult-like situations. But so I mean, it's first world problems, but I guess it's good problems to have. Now, granted, I think I kind of had the foresight because I had cousins who lived this life a generation before me, and I remember they used to come up to where we was from and be like, "How do y'all live like this?" Like, I could never live like this. And I'm like, what you mean? Like I'm having a ball. And once I went to where they were, I was like, I get it. But at the same time,
you mean a negative aspect? Because if you're saying it like that, like,
just different
projects to have fun.
Just different. You know what I mean? Just different, not better or worse, just different. Yeah, just different. Because like they would come to where we were and be like, yo, like, look, man, there's no grass. Like, you know what I mean? Like what you mean y'all playing football in a cemetery? Like, this is like, no, don't do that. And I'm like, well, why not?
Yeah.
But then I went to where they were from and I understood it. But it wasn't better or worse. It was just different, because one of the things that I remember I said was, yo, like, y'all are like, it's like living in a museum. Like, y'all can't go anywhere outside of these 4 walls. Like, they lived in subdivisions and like you couldn't get to the
you talking about like
unless somebody took you. And
you're not talking about Pittsburgh people. You're talking about somebody outside.
No, yeah, like they live. So I had cousins that lived. They grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then down in DC. And
gotcha.
Like, y'all have no independence. Like, I was like, this is uncomfortable.
Right.
the level
No.
of scrutiny I'm on. Like, I have to always be perfect because there's always eyes on
There's
me.
always eyes on
Whereas
you. Yeah.
we're back home, like there was eyes on me when I was about to go to bed.
You outside,
about
like,
it.
F you, like, you know what I'm
Right.
saying?
I'm
We
out here
outside
doing-
talking trash, cussing at people. Like, we
Right. I get home, yes, ma'am. Yeah. And I'm a monster out these streets. Like, so it's one of those things where we had enough leash to spread our wings to where by the time like we were free, we're like, oh, I never realized I wasn't free.
Yeah, we've always been free. Like
Yeah,
there was a
like-
time like, hey, Leaf, when you used to come home, we was in high school. Like we would not come home. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
I wasn't free though, nigga. I was sneaking. Y'all was free.
Yeah, I was free.
Y'all was free. Nigga. I was sneaking. I was supposed to be in church.
Yo, the first real time me and Leaf got in trouble with my mom, we went to this party, and I think we didn't get home like it was like 2:00, and we actually was
like
closer
2
to
in the
his
morning.
house. And he's like, I can't go home. I said,
I
"It's
can't go
cool.
home.
We can just go to my house." You know what I'm saying? And I come home. Now I've been home late because my mom. I used to sneak down to the originals all the time. You know what I'm saying? And she had to pick me up from down there plenty of times. So I was like, we can just go to my house. Come on. My mom was so mad at us. She left us outside on the porch. Like, yo, y'all think y'all just gonna come in the house? It's 2:00 in the morning. We looking like mind you, we high and drunk. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and she could tell. She's like, y'all, you know what? Y'all sleeping on the porch. Was it cold outside? I want to say it was summer though. It had to be summertime.
I don't know if it was summer or not. All I know is it was that Pernell Whitaker fight. That's all I remember. Pernell Whitaker and Oscar De La Hoya fight.
Yeah, and that's when
what I remember.
that Mary Jane came out. That's how old it was. Was that Scarface Mary Jane came out? That's how many years ago that was. And we walked to my mom's crib, and she was like, "Y'all think y'all grown? No, y'all gonna stay on the porch." She let us in like after like 35 minutes, but we thought we were sleeping on the porch that night though. But yeah, I was.
It was
I
still
was
better
free.
than going home.
It probably was
Right.
because I never had that problem again. Like I
Right.
never had a curfew. You know what I'm saying? So we was just outside, like, hey, we out here. And maybe
So
I
you know
don't know
what
if
I
that's bad parenting or not, but
So I
I was
had it
worried
both
about my
ways.
kids being socially awkward. Like, I don't know if
Mhm.
my son could go get a job and just be normal. Like, I don't know.
It's first world problems. Yep. You know,
So
that beats the alternative. So I'm okay with that.
shoot, in the third world countries, they be out working,
Right.
hustling on the street with they parents. Like,
I'm telling you,
change,
Yep.
please.
selling that fruit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
So
first world problems. I guess those are good problems to have. So
you want to chime in,
Me-
Leifer, on if you know your kids is socially ready to be integrated into the world?
You know what? Funny thing is, like, it is the world. You know what? My daughter is pretty, comfortable and well versed when it comes to people. You know what I mean? And she's comfortable in a lot of different spaces. They even use her at her school to do like the tours for new, I say youth, and I mean youth, to do the tours for incoming new students from different schools. So she does a tour. So she's really good with people. So I think she would be able to integrate pretty well. What scares me is her ability to assimilate. That's a little bit scary. She assimilates way too well, and I don't want her assimilating it in the wrong environments or to the wrong people. So that worries me. But her ability to be able to get out here and be able to talk to people and make relationships, like I have no qualms about that at all. But I think that if she gets around the wrong group, that are just very convincing, that would scare me a little bit. But no, not her. And the funny thing is, like, I had one of my cousin's kids. She was like more like a real artsy kid. You know what I mean? And she was like, I don't know, a couple of my cousins and nieces are like real artsy, and they seem like, I don't want to say airheads, but they seem like their heads is up in the clouds. Like they have all these big, big, wonderful, artsy ideas and stuff. And she told me she was going to go to art school in New York. And I was like, New York City? Like, I was just so scared because, you know, she's like the type of kid that'll have headphones on and just be walking and not paying attention to nothing. So I was like scared. I'm like I was praying for months, like, man, just God, just have favor over her, watch her. But man, she's been up there for 3-4 years, man. She did it like I don't know. It's like home to her, man. And she did it big up there. Like, even my daughter is terrified of New York. You know what I mean? Like, I took her up there to go see one of my cousins plays on Broadway. And you know what I mean? It was just so busy and so much going on. Like, she was just like, hey, I don't never want to come back to New York. You know, and she's a performance arts kid. So that's why I wanted to take her to one of my cousins, you know what I mean, Broadway plays, because I was like, oh, you know, this is a step into, you know, this world. You get to see it, and you know the person who was, you know, producing it, and you know what I mean, you get to build these relationships. And she was not feeling New York at all. And you know, she goes up there and she dang near makes a home out of it, and it, you know, and just comfortable as can be. Like, you know, I'll see y'all when I see y'all. So, you know what I mean? You just never know. You just never know how they're going to be, because they'll go there and they'll just find their crowd. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Find their crowd and just stick within their crowd. And now they got a village, you know, so you just never know. It'll be that kid that you think has the most acumen to make it that'll go up there
way off the rocker.
Yeah, go up there and become a crackhead. So
I'll never forget our valedictorian. That happened to him. I couldn't believe it. This was the oldest young dude you'll ever meet. He was so mature. Man, they said he went off to school. I won't say to school, but man, they talk about he pledged and then he was wilding and was back home, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, what world is this? What dimension is this?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
So you just never know.
Yeah, it's you don't you never know, man. And it's a scary thing. Like I said, I guess one thing I kind of wanted to touch on. What are y'all doing to prevent y'all daughters from like being not attracted in a situation where that old head come and holler at them? What's the deflection for that? What are you teaching? What are you saying? Watch out for this, or hey, this, you know what I mean? Like,
for me, it's an example.
It would even come from you.
Yeah, so it does. Yeah. So for me, because I'm very cognizant of this, because I'm from a place to where I remember coming out of the high school and there was grown men across the street waiting on these high school girls. So that's a fear or a trigger of mine. So having that kind of behind the curtains view of it, one, I have a very good relationship with my daughter to where like they're going to be a gentleman, and like anything less than that is not acceptable to her, hopefully. And then the allure of shiny things and, you know, oh, well, I'll give you this or whatever, that shouldn't be an allure because she can always get it from her daddy. Like, so those are the type of things that generally that older or bad crowd, because it doesn't even necessarily have to be an older dude. Like, it could be just a knucklehead dude. Like, oh, well, he getting fast money, so he could buy me a Louis Vuitton purse. Like, my daddy could buy me a Louis Vuitton purse. So I'm not about to compromise my morals because you have a little bit of money. My daddy got money. Like, my daddy, like, hell, when I was 8 years old, I went to Hawaii, went to Japan, like, you know what I mean? So she's not going to have that allure of the shiny thing to chase. So it's just it would have to be a choice. It wouldn't be she got baited into it. She would have to like make a cognizant choice to be like, I'm going to go against how I was raised. And that would just be it would have to be a choice at that point. Because we have a relationship to where, you know, it can't be like, oh, it's daddy issues, or, oh, you know, it was a lack of resources. That's how I got caught up with this older guy or this knucklehead that was getting fast money. I remove those two extenuating circumstances where generally you go off the wrong path as a female. So that's how I started.
So
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, Lee.
Yeah, so I tend to agree with Mo on this, man. I think you know, one, it definitely starts with the relationship that you have. You know what I mean? You build that good relationship and foundation where, you know, you have that that line of communication where you could talk about certain stuff. But then also, you know, what I'm always wary is of the the slightly young but older track coaches and gym teachers and things like that. Because when I was in high school, man, they were smashing the high school students. So I'm always yeah, I'm football coaches, all that. Like I'm wary of that. So I'm like seeing who, you know, what coaches at the school is getting a little friendly and close, and you know, like, hey, you know what I mean. And then also that conversation with the little young knuckleheads and stuff like that. Like, you know, we take my daughter all over on cruises out of the country. Like, you know what I mean? When my daughter goes to college, she'll have access to our membership at our resort down in Cancun. So if she wants to go take a little vacation off, you know, on spring break or something, she got access to that. She could go, you know, down north thing. So she, you know what I mean? She's not going to be swayed by no, you know what I mean? She's not going to be swayed by no, look, man, at this point, I've done my teaching and I've done my raising. So now you've got to show me how you're going to act out in the world. You know, and I won't necessarily let her go unsupervised. You know, it'll, you know, probably be, you know, maybe an aunt or somebody if I can't go, if her mother can't go, but she'll have access to it. You know what I mean? To be able to use our membership to go down there and stay in our suite. So, you know, and like I said, we travel, we you know, she all the designer purses, designer clothes, all that stuff. She has all that stuff, even though I don't really care much for it, but she has all of it. So it's not like she'll be enticed by somebody saying, here, let me give you a little money. Let me get, you know, she's not gonna be enticed by that bull crap. So you got to really come with some, you know, you got to really come with some, you know, some game.
What they gonna say? Hey, what they gonna say?
Give you a little something here. Here, take this little bit of cash here. I'm gonna put something in your pocket. You know what I mean?
That's Mr. Charles game,
right? Mr. Charles.
Take this little $40 here. We're gonna put this $40 in your pocket. You know what I mean? She ain't gonna be enticed by that. You know what I mean? She gonna come out of school. She'll come out of high school with good credit. You know what I mean? And good job prospects, and you know, going towards college and stuff like that. So she ain't gonna be. You're gonna have to really come with your A game. You can't just be, you know what I mean? You can't just be coming. It's like, and like Mo said, if she decides to do this stuff, it'll literally be a choice. Like, you chose this because you didn't have to. You had options. You know what I mean? You were able to make a good decision, and you decided that this is what you wanted. So then you got to deal with the consequences of that. I can't, you know what I mean? I can coach you at that point, but there's no more parenting I can do. You know what I mean? And I can only coach you if you asking for help. Like, I'm not going to just be super interjecting myself in your life unless somebody put their hands on you. Then, and I don't give a dang what you say. I'm coming. But you know what I mean? So, but other than that, there's nothing else I can really do. I got to just trust my leadership and trust everything that I instilled in you all this life, and pray to God it works or it clicks at some point in time.
Man, I only like to keep y'all for an hour. I said buckle windows. As soon as I seen Leifer come in late, I said, "Oh yeah."
Well, this is for this week and last week. So you know what I mean.
I guess
this is like two episodes in one.
Right.
Man, we got some
BOGO.
But man, that's another prototype dad. And we out. Peace.